We off in this place, catching vibes, sit back and we blaze in the sky like I'm out of space. Natural high, light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up.
What's going on, Cigar World? What's going on, Cigar Enthusiasts? This is Jack, the Cigar Enthusiast, and you already know it is. We back with another banger. Oh, Jesus. I started choking on my spit. Hold on now. Let's try this again. We back with another banger. Man, I hope you guys are ready for this action-packed show. We have a comedian from the Big Apple on the segment today that's going to be just amazing, man. But before we get really started in that, man, if you're new to the channel or you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. And if you're watching from Facebook, don't be the only one to watch this amazing segment. Man, go ahead and hit that share button, hit that like button, drop your name, drop some what's ups, drop a hey, how you doing? Whatever you want to learn about or talk about or just say something nice to me, go ahead and hit that comment box, man. We got an action-packed show for you guys tonight. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Hey, Lit Torch, man, I see you out there doing big things in Orlando. If you don't know, Orlando Cigar Fest. What's up, Andrew? And my boy Rima, the Johnny Smokes Uncut. The train is in the building. But anyway, it was Orlando Fest down in Orlando, and man, these mugs had a ball. They showed out. Lit Torch was out there killing the damn thing. Big ups to you and everything that you got going on down there, man. You're doing big things. Just know that. I done told you that before. You're doing great things. Keep it going. Now it's time for all you Duval folks to get back and come smoke with me here at Dapper D's because y'all didn't show me no love this weekend. No, I'm just kidding, man. The building was nice, man. We had a live band. It was really good, man. So outside of that, man, I'm not gonna keep going on and blabbering off. It's time to get to our guest of honor. My brother is coming out of New York, a comedian that's really doing this damn thing, performing at amphitheaters and really just doing his damn thing. He got a show called In the Hot Water, I believe, but he's gonna correct me if I'm wrong. In the Hot Water. Really funny show, man. This guy is a genius and is really, highlighting his talents here on the show, man. So without further ado, introducing our guest for the hour, Aaron Berg.
What's up?
What's up, Aaron? How you doing, brother? Hey, man, look.
Favorite part is when you choked on your spit. That was good. It's real moments like that ground us and bring us right back. Mm-hmm. This is an honor, first of all. Let me say this. Usually people seek me out. I sought you out because we met on Facebook and I go, we got to do a show someday.
Absolutely.
And you go, come on this show. Let's do it. And this is a great excuse. A, because Sunday nights, I never get to get outside.
Yeah.
B, now I told my wife, I got to go outside and smoke and do this thing. So it's promo and enjoyable at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you coming through. At the end of the day, it's never about who sought out who. At the end of the day, it's about bringing great talent, somebody that is doing a phenomenal job within their industry and just highlighting that industry, especially one of those industries that's been hit hard for the pandemic, because of performances and different things of that nature. But, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, out of your busy day to come on to the show, man. We're excited to have you.
It's great. I love being able to talk to you and on a Sunday, and it's great. And look at this. Most people will come in loaded with what they're going to smoke.
Absolutely.
I thought I would give some choices. So I have a classic My Father, Robusto size, nice and thick, Fuente Opus X, given to me by my lovely friend Mo, who is the Tatawahe representative here in the Northeast. Mo knows his stuff. A La Opulencia by My Father. Now, I think pound for pound, my father and Tat are doing some of the best cigars around. I think they've like elevated themselves from a
Yeah.
boutique brand to like really mainstream, still affordable, but hella smokes. And then I got, you know, the old fat rich guy cigar, the old Davidoff that I should be like smoking and like petting a cat with while I plan how to take down James Bond. But I think I'm going to go with the Opulencia
I think
because
that's a go ahead. Sorry.
packs a hell of a punch. Have you had it?
Yeah.
Peppery, spicy. Uh, they don't disappoint, you know? And I think it's not going to be that long of a smoke, and then I'll still have a nice appetite for some shrimp dinner.
First and foremost, that is one of those smokes that. Wait a second. We have Sweeney from Ireland on board, man. Thank you so much for tuning in, and shout out to my beautiful wife. I had to stop the show and make sure I said that, otherwise, you understand what's going to happen after that. Okay.
Beautiful wives are a great thing, aren't they? I just told my wife right before this, we were sitting outside. We just moved. We moved to Jersey about a month ago, and we're sitting on our porch. And I looked over, and I get romantic sometimes. You know, I'm a little, some people call me weird, but I'm still like an old school romantic. So I looked over and I said, you think we'll be out on this porch in 30 years, sitting here waiting for our daughter to come visit for dinner? And I like those little romantic moments. And then my wife just looked at me and she goes, shut up, you're gay. And then so it was an interesting time. She busts my nuts a lot, but we did that, and it's just such a beautiful thing, especially knowing how tense the world is right now and how tense the world could possibly be about to get after tomorrow, you know?
What happens tomorrow?
Well,
I might have missed it.
It's okay. It's just mainstream news. The Derek Chauvin verdict may go down tomorrow. So, you know, it's the expectation, I think, that, you know, the country's gonna go through a real hella summer this summer. So I think it's important, you know, you have family and you just know your roots and the ability to be like, look, if everything goes awry again, we got a place we can just chill, stay home, and we'll see what happens. I was in New York City last night. It's starting to pulse again. Like I was driving through Times Square. People are out again. There's tourists coming back again. It's really promising. Like, I don't know how hard you were hit where you were. I also know you live in a state where, you know, it opened up pretty quickly in Florida. And even when it was closed, it wasn't closed as hard as it was closed in the Northeast, right?
I don't think Florida was ever closed.
Yeah. Which is a beautiful thing. Like, I go down to Florida and everybody's like, yeah, you know, it's like, we know what it is, but we're not going to give up our entire lives for the thing. Whereas in New York and surrounding areas, people were freaking out and still are. So it'll be interesting to see. It's good that it's starting to bounce back, you know. And you mentioned like stand-up was hit hard by the pandemic. It was, but some people, you know, the innovators were able to figure out a way to make it work. And I think that happens in any industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think the biggest thing too, you know, I kind of got off subject with that La Palencia. One, it's a very peppery smoke. One is an action-packed one. You get some different notes throughout the final third. So if you guys haven't ever smoked the My Father La Palencia, man, definitely go to your local brick and mortar and check it out, or shop Dapper D Cigars today to go ahead and get it. But onto another subject, you dove straight in, and I have no problem with diving straight in. But I want to get the crowd to get, you know, people that are not familiar with Aaron. Let's introduce yourself. Let's talk about a little bit of you, and then we're gonna go back into, you know, the comedy and how things in the world that's happening around the world actually plays out, especially when you're on that stage and you're performing. How those different things you kind of make, you know, not humor, you make it humorous to a point where no matter what culture, whatever background it is, it's something that, you know, everybody can just laugh, because I think comedy is just like cigars, right? And the reason I say that is because comedy, you can sit next to somebody, look at the same person, and just laugh together. You know what I mean? And talk about all the dumb things that the comedian said on the stage, and how, you know, it was just funny to you. Same concept when it comes to cigars. You know, the power of smoking a cigar and really getting to know your neighbor and understand those type of things is really plays an intricate part in the development of the cigar lounge and the cigar culture. So again, that's a little direction that we wanted to go. But first, man, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we're gonna get into those other things, champ.
Okay, yeah, I'm Aaron Berg. I'm a stand-up comedian, have been for 20 years. Prior to that, I was acting in movies, and I thought I would be like a movie star. I did a
Shit, I
movie
need an
called
autograph then.
did a movie called Detroit Rock City years ago, which was about Kiss, and and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a made man after this. Never happened, so I needed a creative outlet. I started doing stand up. Went to an amateur night in Toronto, which is where I'm from in Canada, and did well. And I was like, oh, this might be a thing. And then I sucked for the next 6 years, and then after 6 years, started getting good. Goal was always to move to New York to play on stage with the best in the world, who at that time was a different era. There was no Hannibal Buress around at that time. Bill Burr hadn't popped. CK wasn't a household name. It was guys like, the guys I was looking up to were like Doug Stanhope. I think even Mark Maron at that time were big guys. So I finally made the move like 10 years ago, came to New York, and gave up everything. I had a pretty good living back in Canada. I was engaged. I gave it all up. I moved to an 8x10 room in Astoria, New York, and slugged it out for a few years. I was really, you really take it in the teeth. And then a few years ago, it started to pick up for me, and I started to get funnier and get better, which is always the goal. It's always just to get funnier. There was never like, I want a TV series. I want to move. It was like, I just want to be one of the funniest MFers alive. So I would grind it all the time. I was doing 20 spots a week, very fortunate. And that stage time, there's no substitution for that. You can write until your hands sore, but you got to be on stage. And the beauty of New York is you're on stage every night in front of diverse audiences.
Yep.
So you get to work all types of crowds, tourists, locals, black rooms, gay rooms, whatever room you could be in. The goal is to make that room full of strangers laugh. And then a couple years ago, I was like, okay, I'm doing a lot of spots. What can I do with this? So I set out to break the world record of shows in one night. Now, Steve Byrne had 13 in one night. Steve is a great comic, lives in Nashville now. And I think I can double that. So I set out to do 26. I did 25 comedy shows in one night in New York City. We made a documentary of it, and it's on Amazon Prime. It's called 25 Sets. And it was really like a love letter to the New York comedy scene, because in Canada, I was good, but I hit a ceiling. And also, I'm very dirty and very incendiary. And there was a glass ceiling on that. So the United States offers you, it's a numbers game. So even though a lot of people hate what I do, there's still going to be a number of people that really love what I do. And to be able to tap into that, you can only do that based out of New York in a country like the United States. So I did that. And then I've been doing a show called In Hot Water at Compound Media, which is, old school shock jock radio, but it's shock video. It's everything you can't say anywhere else. It's behind a paywall at compoundmedia.com. It's like $8 a month. You get our show, you get Anthony Cumia's show, you get New York City Crime Report. And it's a steal. Like, if you're sick of watching basic cable stuff, this is the thing that you need to do. So I do that 4 days a week. I do a Patreon show. And when the pandemic hit, we're like, okay, we're done. Luckily, we were still able to do our daily show, but stand-up really took a hit. Yeah. And it was 2 months, of nothing. And then someone offered me a Zoom show. And I was like, I'm not going to... All the comics I respected were like, we're not going to do Zoom shows. You knew eventually they would, because comics have to do comedy. That's why Chappelle was doing his shows with like COVID testing, and Rogan had to get. But you have to do it. It's just in your blood. So I did a Zoom show, and then I was like, all right, we got to now figure something else out. So one guy in Astoria, Jay Nog, he put on a show outside of a diner in Queens where we had to stand on the back of a truck. And people, this was when COVID was at the height, people would not even be outside. They'd sit in their cars. And this is the horrible part. they they'd laugh, but so the comics would know they laugh, they'd honk their horns or flash their lights. And these drive-in shows became a thing. And
Yeah.
I was one of the first guys to do live stand-up after the lockdown, and then more people started taking the incentive. Stand Up New York, which is a club in on the Upper West Side, they started doing shows in Central Park, you know, socially distanced, people with masks. And it's a necessary thing. Stand-up's a necessary thing. That's why it's so under attack. That's why
Yeah.
people go after Chappelle. They go after Burr. People, you know, I feel honored to be one of those people that people try and cancel now because you
Yeah.
know you're speaking truth to power. And that's
Yeah.
why in New York, stand-up was illegal for even though they brought karaoke back, they brought trivia back, the same thing. It's just a guy talking into a mic. They would not bring stand-up back because, you know, it was astutely political. And it's amazing. It's coming back now. We're at like 33%. I work at the Stand a lot, which is the best comedy club in the world currently. Chappelle and Chris Rock were there last Sunday and Monday. And it's just, I mean, it's fire. It's great to have it come back. But then you also remember how crappy stand-up can be.
Yeah.
Like last night I was outside of Times Square and I'm in this show at Broadway Comedy Club. Most of the people are great, but then there's just like people staring at you like, why am I even here? So it's a real love-hate thing, but it's a powerful art form. And cigars have so much to do with comedy because the best comics can just sit around, shoot the smack. By the way, do you notice I'm not cursing because out of respect for you and your show, and I don't want you to be demonetized or taken down because I have a horrible mouth on me, but I'm watching everything I say. There is this thing where you're just shooting the crap, and that's why so many great comics have been known cigar smokers, you know?
Yeah. So what, you know, understanding how hit, you know, stand-up comedy was not only in New York but around the world, and the fact that in order to really, you know, get that practice time, which is that stage time that you talked about, you know, outside of like the truck thing, I find that very interesting because I really want to know how, like, what was your first reaction when that really happened? Like, what, like, as soon as the first one honked their horn, was it like, oh shit, you know, like, you know, like, what was the reaction? Did you know about this? Like,
yeah, there's a real nerve thing. I remember the first show I did back, Joe List was on it as well. If you don't know him, he's hilarious. He used to open for Louis C.K. And I saw him and he's like, I'm going to throw up. And I was like, yeah, because there's real nerves associated with it. You know,
yeah,
people look at it like the biggest fear in the world. But as I was driving there, I was like, I don't need to do this. Why are we doing this? We should wait for the call. Trying to talk myself out of doing it because the nerves do start. And I don't get, you know, I've done this 20 years almost every night.
yeah,
So driving there, you're like, ah, God. And then, of course, as soon as the laughs come back, you're like, ah, that's it. Because it is a drug. There's something really addictive about it. But I also had the moment when we were in lockdown for 2 months, right before this happened, I was running all the time, doing 15, 20 a week. And I had a daughter who at that time was 2 and a bit. And I was like, man, I wish I had more time to just stay home with my family. And then, of course, luckily, the Black Plague of 2000 and something came around and locked down everything. So it was like 7 weeks with me and my wife and my daughter. And we made the best of it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that there was some positive stuff to come out of this, you know? People got to spend time with their families, which they didn't have for a long time. And I'm very hesitant to get back to that hustle. I'm very hesitant.
So what do you see being the difficult part of comedy coming out of the end of this pandemic? Like, what is the hardest thing that you think is going to be able to continue on, you know, back in the old days like we did in 2019, here in the next 2021, 2022?
Division, I think. When people are at a comedy show, it's been a real divide. I'll tell you this. The people that have been going out to comedy shows throughout this were probably politically more right-leaning, which is a big switch because years ago, you know, comedy was this big liberal pursuit, and liberalism has changed so much. But I think that there was a thing like I would go down to Florida in December and you'd see most of the audiences, you know, red states were open. So that's where comedy was available. Blue states weren't. So I think that there's this fear of division. Last night I was on stage ripping. And I do everything. I talk about race, I talk about sex, I talk about gender, and diverse audiences laugh at it. But I think that there's, this birth of woke culture has worked its way into so many facets where people get offended on behalf of other people.
Yeah.
And it's something that shouldn't happen, but it does have power. Like I don't chase anything mainstream anymore. I just want to do my own thing. I look at the successes in my industry, like an Andrew Schultz or a Tim Dillon, these guys that made their own way, and clearly that's the path that I'm on. But there is that thing where it's like, if you had this desire to go mainstream, it's not going to happen if you're doing anything that's taboo or racy now. So I feel like division's a big thing, but people get so united when they're in a comedy club, because even if they disagree and they're laughing, they're all together,
Yeah. And I think, when it comes to comedy itself, we've seen it a lot with Kevin Hart, with old Dave Chappelle jokes, you name it, somebody then got offended from a joke that was probably put out, 10, 15 years ago, or even 5 years ago or 4 years ago. So with the such division between, blue states, red states, left wing, right wing, black, white, purple, pink, and yellow, orange, whatever the case may be, right? What do you think? How does that play, when it comes to creating jokes? Because it has to become like somewhere in it where you just like, forget it. Whatever I say kind of says, and it's like, otherwise, then what is the purpose of comedy anymore? Like how does that play? Like what kind of impact does that really have on the industry, and how the development of jokes and stuff happens?
It's Ari Shaffir said it really well. I don't know if you know Ari or not. Really good comic. He got in trouble right before COVID. He made a Kobe joke online, like right after Kobe died, and they went after him really hard. And the joke wasn't that funny, and I love Ari, but he had the right to make that joke. But people were like, "We're gonna kill you. We're outside this comedy club right now with guns." Like, it was that type of thing. We do have to push. I mean, comics have to push, but I also understand, because I'm a good person, I understand that people get offended. I think these things through. I think, do my words have implications? But I know if I do a gay joke on stage, that no one's going to go, he's right, we got to go beat up a gay guy. I know that stuff doesn't happen. And I know that when you're in a comedy club, it's meant to be a safe space to say whatever you want. There is something very Prohibition era about stand-up comedy. This guy taught me once, he's like, you're going into a basement to say dirty words. And that's the appeal of what it is. Some people get really good at it. There's really only 15 great comics in the world at any given time. There's a lot of filler. There's a lot of people that mess up and ruin it when they go like, edgy comics suck. And it'll be like, no, you just saw some guy that had done it 3 times trying to justify a rape joke. You're not talking to like a master craftsman or something like that. It is a difficult time to do it, but it's also fun because it's dangerous again, because you can get canceled. And until you get that FU money, like Chappelle and Berg have, until you get that, you are dancing a fine line. But now it's better than ever if you want to make your own way, which is really important. If you're not depending on a network to hire you and you're not waiting to be discovered, you make your own way and your audience will find you. And it's fun, it's dangerous, it's exciting, it's a thrilling time to be a stand-up comedian.
So you say it's a thrilling time to be a comedian. What's the reason behind that? I'm just curious. I want to know, why is right now the best time to be a comedian for anybody that's looking to be a comedian?
Because not anyone that's looking. I mean, I would not want to start now, but it's exciting now because it's so taboo, and because people listen to what comics say. Like when Chappelle does that joke, he had a trans joke in his last special where he, compared it to him feeling Asian inside, and then did like this wacky accent. Um, and then they'll go after him like, you got to stop Dave Chappelle. You're not going to stop Dave Chappelle. You're not going to stop comedy. It's just this overpowering force that the more you tell people what they can listen to and what they can laugh at, the more they're going to rebel against it. Humans are very rebellious, especially in this country. People don't like to be told what to do. That's the backbone of America, is people fight back against what they're told to do.
So how is comedy in America different with comedy in Canada?
In Canada, there's 2 networks. They're both run by the government. So you have to play by the rules if you want to get on TV. There's also a few exceptions. I came up through Yuck Yucks, which is a chain of comedy clubs where the owner was this old school guy that was like, if it's funny, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
So some people are fortunate enough to work in Canada. There's a couple good comics in Canada still. Ben Bankus is a guy that I get to open for me whenever I go up. He's becoming a headliner in his own right. He pushes the edge, and I think if you're not pushing that edge, there's no point. But Canada was really a safe place where I was just branded as the dirty guy. Whereas here in New York, it's just like, oh, you're just funny.
Yeah.
So they take those labels off, which is great.
Do you think the sense of humor in America is a lot more different than the sense of humor in Canada when it comes to, whether it's a gay joke, a black or white joke, or a gender joke, or whatever the case may be?
Sure. First of all, stand-up is a very uniquely American art form. Even though there's a lot of people really good at it in Canada and England and Australia, it's an American art form. It's very jazzy. And I say that a lot, but it's cliche, but jazz is also a great American art form. It takes its roots from jazz and burlesque. It's about exposure and timing and tempo and rhythm and originality, improvisation. That being said, it's like, what's the best way to put it? There is something about standing up and saying what you want to say. America has this huge belief in freedom of speech, and America is also this huge melting pot that has this beast of burden on its back, which Canada did not have, which is the notion of racial division due to slavery. Canada never dealt with that, and that's something that America will not get over for a very long time. And as much as some, one side wants to say, well, like, oh, that was so many years ago, you're still never going to negate the division in this country.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So you have to be smart enough to play both sides. That's what the best comics do. I mean, they're not, if you're really left-leaning or really right-leaning, you need to correct yourself. I find myself sometimes too being like, look, I'm a kind of successful middle-aged white man. I should be kind of conservative. But then it's like, okay, now I need to educate myself more with liberal beliefs, and so that I'm not just playing one side. And the good comics will correct themselves and find a way to make both sides of the aisle laugh.
So what do you believe is the hardest part of being a comedian?
I think the need to make it, which isn't always in line with the artistic pursuit. I think a lot of people chase making it with just getting really funny, but there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of failure. I didn't start to get good until I stopped caring, and it takes years. I mean, Russell Peters told me when I started, he's like, it's a 20-year game. Anything you get before that is gravy. But it's, that's a tough business. If you put in, and there's exceptions. Michael Che broke after 6 years. He was a phenom. But a lot of people don't get really good until 20 years in. For me, anyways.
Absolutely. And, I think you spoke about something, about failure. Failure in the comedy realm, in my opinion, seems like it hits a little bit harder, right? Because your goal is to try to tug at the hearts and break past what anything is going on in somebody's mental makeup and make them laugh despite what they're going through. What is it like when you get on a stage and it's like you're you figure, you know, you got a lineup of jokes that you know damn well is funny, and then nobody laughs, which I think is constituting as something that most comedians are called a failure night or whatever the case may be. A bomb night. So how does those bomb nights make you a better comedian?
Well, you only learn from those bombs, because when you're killing all the, I got a high. You base it on a batting percentage. You know, people used to say if you're hitting 333, you're doing great. So I never wanted to be that. I hit in the 900s, which is, you know, rare. There's a few people that hit in the 900s, but when you don't, it feels like crap. You gotta take it on the chin. There's no other way to do it. Some people blame the audience, which is a mistake, because you're in control of it. So it happens. I mean, last week I had one. I had 4 shows in a night, and the third one was just like, goo. I was too much. I came out of the gate too hot. I wasn't likable. You know, there's like beginner mistakes you can make even 20 years in. And I just took it on the chin, and I stood up there and I go, I am eating a brick of and they knew, and I knew, and it's you got it. And I go, okay, what did I do wrong? I go, all right, well, I opened too high, and that's what I do. That's my style. Is I'm just going to talk off the top of my head. And if I just came up to you and I was like, yo, your wiener's out, and smacked you in it, you're not going to want to hang out with me for the next 10 minutes. So it's like, you got to finesse them sometimes. This one guy once told me, it was the dumbest analogy I ever heard, but I went on the road 6 years in. I was bombing all the time because I was good in big city, but they put me in these small towns, and people were looking at me like, what is this guy even doing? And this guy, Bill McIntosh, told me, he goes, you know, it's like you're feeding a pony. You got to give him a little bit of sugar before he runs the race. And it was the dumbest analogy I ever heard, but I was like, all right, I get it.
So what was the purpose of the analogy? Because I'm still trying to figure it out.
You got to sweeten them up before you make them ready to run. I don't know. It's still a dumb analogy.
It's one of those that I think he was the only person that really understood it. But it made sense to him, so he kept saying it. And then eventually everybody else has their own analogy of what it means and comes up with it.
But there's so many cool things that stand-up opens up. Like, you know, if I was 10 years ago me to where I am now, where there was like a night a couple weeks ago when the show was me, then Dave Attell, then Louis C.K., and I was like, oh boy, this is just, you know, this is the stuff I dreamt of 10 years ago. I never knew that I'd be, you know, on the same shows with Dave and Louis and stuff. And it's just great. But there's a part of your brain that always wants more. You look at the success of your peers, like in any game, and you're like, I wish I had this, or I wish I had. But then there's also a thing that comes with age, which is wisdom, where you go, I'm grateful for everything that I have. And you notice when you become grateful, you have more to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And it's such a weird, when you're not wanting, when you're just happy with what you have, you get more to be happy about.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thing.
So what does comedy do for you?
It makes me sane. It gives me, and I won't notice sometimes, like I'll take more nights off now than I used to. I'll take off Tuesday, Wednesday. And then by Thursday, I'm like, why am I so surly? And then you get up on stage, and right after you're like, it is therapeutic. Some people will go, it's not supposed to be therapy. These people are paid to watch you. You should be good. It is. It's therapeutic. If you have to do it, you have to do it. It also gives me clarity. It gives me a real perspective into the world that isn't based on, you know, watching the news repeatedly and going, the world is doomed. It's like you get into a room and you're like, oh no, this is what the world really is. Yeah. It's not what the news is trying to scare you with, or it gives you perspective. It helps you laugh. Like I laugh so much. I laugh like a little kid when I go to my show every day. When we do In Hot Water, we laugh at the dumbest stuff. And you're just so, look, I always wanted to be like a Lenny Bruce smart comic too, but it's like when my buddy next to me farts into a microphone, I'm dying for 3 minutes. I don't know what it is, but it's just hilarious.
So have you ever found yourself, you know, in a predicament where you said a joke and you was like, damn, That was funny, but nobody else laughed.
Last night I did one, and
What was the joke?
I got a big wow.
Tell us a joke. We want to hear it.
I'm gonna keep it as clean as possible for you. I said, and it's a joke that's been working 90% of the time. I go, well, Joe Biden's president. Finally, we have another old white American to lead this country. And I go, but do you remember Michelle Obama thought about running? How progressive would that have been, right? To finally have a second black man as president. And it got, see, that's exactly what it got. Because there's videos where people actually think she's a man. So I made a joke about that. And sometimes it hits hard. But last night there was a black couple in the front row and he was just like, wow. And just stuff. And I go, I know it's offensive. I got to dig out of there. But I did. But you know, that's kind of my brand, and what I do is like, if I'm not pissing some people off, I'm doing something wrong. It happens sometimes. I went on a road trip years ago when I first started, and I have this story on Comedy Central that made, you know, I think, you know, the best story I've told in my career. And it was like a 15-minute epic story about when I used to work as a male stripper and this weird scenario I got myself into. And it was really, you can watch it on Comedy Central. This is not happening. It's not, you know,
Ron,
you'll get shut down right now.
Ron, can you go find that video and post that link, please? Mm-hmm. Keep going. I'm curious.
I told that story, but I did it in this small mining town where people just look, and it's got very gay overtones to it. And these people are like, what's this guy doing? I'm on stage. While I'm on stage, the bar person, who's like 10 feet away to the right, and it's a very makeshift stage, calls. That's how long ago it was. It was a real phone like this. They didn't have cell phone. She calls up and she's yelling, and I come off and I go to the other comic. He goes, she literally just called the booker and said, I never want this guy back here, while I was on stage. So it's like, you know, you learn from that. Oh, I got to read the room, and I got to be able to do these small town places that aren't as hip.
That's crazy. You know, I think, you know, anytime you start, you know, talking about, you know, politics or race or sexuality and different things of that nature, you know, I think it gets to very hot waters, you know. And I think, you know, in today's comedy, it is really shifted. You think about, you know, I grew up in the Chicago area, Kankakee, small town, right outside of Chicago. And, you know, we grew up on Kings of Comedy and, you know, Steve Harvey and different things of that nature. What is some stuff that you would see in old comedy that you would not see in today's comedy whatsoever?
Boy,
and the reason why?
You look at Eddie Murphy's first album, and he had, I think the first track was FAGGO**S. You can't do that anymore. I had an album, and one of the tracks had that word in it, and they literally took it off of iTunes and didn't release it for like 4 days until we changed the name of that title, or like asterisked it out. The speech, I get it. Speech evolves. You know, there's words you can't say because they start to sting so much.
Yeah.
So I get it. You know, there's a school of thought where, well, it's just a word, and if you give it the power, it's like, okay, but there's some things that you're going to hit that are too taboo that aren't worth their weight. Like if I'm going to say that word, I know it's going to cost me a couple minutes. I'm going to have to rebuild. Old school stuff, they would push, but I mean, people carry it on. You know, Berg does it, Chappelle does it, Attell does it. I'd like to think I'm in that class of people that are getting there doing it. So there's still old school comics that believe as long as it's funny, you can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that's everything, you know, and especially in today's society, you know, I'm all about, you know, in business period, you just want to be cognizant of what it is that you're saying, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, it's really gotten to a point where, what you say has a huge impact, but it cannot deter what it is that you do. You know, if you're a comedian, your job is to take, you know, not so funny situations and make them funny. Mm-hmm. You know, to highlight different things, but also to try to teach a lesson. Do you ever feel like, in the midst of your comedy, you're really trying to, enlighten the crowd or anything particular or anything of that nature?
No, I grew out of that. I just want to make people laugh as hard as I can. That's the only thing I care about. I want them gut laughing uncontrollably and shocked at what they're laughing at.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I get people that are like, they can't believe that they're laughing at this stuff. And
Yeah.
that means that to me is the world. That's like, okay, I'm doing my job right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what kind of you like you said it earlier when you first opened up, you spoke about how cigars are kind of therapeutic and different things of that nature. Oh, and you said how it played a big part in the comedy. How do you feel like cigars and comedy is really tying into each other in today's society?
There's something, obviously it's relaxing to smoke, but there is that camaraderie. There's that ability that you're so relaxed, you're going to say whatever you want to say. And it's like, whenever I go on the road, I'll just go find the local cigar place to go chill out at. You're amongst people that, even if you're not of the same mindset, you can converse about it, which is a lost art because people that disagree now don't have conversations about it. And instead, they'll just jump down each other's throats because so much stuff is online now. And there's this, this antiquated thing of like, let's sit down and talk this out. That's why cigars provide some of the best conversation you've ever had.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at, the cigar, do you find when you're smoking a cigar, at a local cigar lounge, is it hard not to like crack jokes? Is it hard to, do you feel like comedy is a part of your physical makeup?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't tell people I'm a comic a lot. If someone asks, I will. My wife gets on my case because I'll say, like, I don't want to run around and say it. She's a comic too. She loves saying I'm a comic. I like just going to work or, whatever it is, because it's just a job like everything else at some point. But there is an expectation when you say it, like, tell me a joke, do this.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll go, if I'm on a plane and someone's like, what do you do? I'll be like, pipe fitter, plumber. And, I've been caught once where I said I'm a plumber and he goes, which union? Local 432 out of Philly. He's like, I thought that was 210. And I was like, yeah, there's 210, but then 432 just started up because they're looking to do like other. He's like, what do you specialize in? I'm like, this is going on too long. I got to get out of here.
Hey, look, it just opens up to a can of worms. It's just like you get that one person, you start telling the story and they just want to learn more. And it's like, hey, that was supposed to be a answer that moves on to the next conversation.
Yeah.
It's not something that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
So Ron, which is he finds everything. I don't even know how this guy does it sometimes.
Yeah.
But no matter who I have on the show, he will find all their media, all their stuff, and post it. But he has a question for you. Has Aaron smoked Protocol cigars?
The answer is yes. My buddy George.
It's hard to not smoke Protocol in New York or New Jersey. Period.
Yeah.
But anyway,
my friend George Chigger, he lives in the Poconos and he's a competitive eater. And George, a great guy.
Hey, I see, hot dog eater.
Yes.
Yeah. He goes to Caravan. Ryan, you know about it. Caravan Cigar Company out in Philly, I believe, or somewhere. I think it's Pennsylvania.
It sounds like a slur when you call him a hot dog eater. So, you one of those hot dog eaters? That sounds awful. I drive through that neighborhood quick. There's too many hot dog eaters down there. But George brought some by. He came on In Hot Water and he brought by some, and somebody else gave me some, and I like some. I like the. They had a heavier one. I mean, I'm usually the guy that only smokes heavy stuff. Once in a while, I'll smoke a Connecticut wrap. But yeah, I dug them. I also tried something a couple of years ago, Line of Duty cigars.
Okay.
And they were great too. And then we had another. A guy on my street says he's got his own line, but he didn't tell me the name yet. And he said he's going to bring some by. And he goes, we don't carry them in stores because they take too much. But We'll see what he has. There was a guy years ago that was a corrupt cop in New York. I forget his name. And he started a line with a criminal that he like busted, but was like doing business with. And they started a line. It was like a real Irish name. He's pretty famous. He's been in a bunch of Netflix documentaries about like corrupt cops in New York. This was a guy that would like go to drug busts and they'd be like, "Oh, this guy's dead," and he'd be like, "Ah, but look at all this money and coke," and they'd take it and leave the house. Like that type of, back when the NYPD was really bad. And by the way, several friends in the NYPD now, and I love them. So he would do it. He started a cigar line. He came on the show. This is years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I brought him by, and I remember he brought him. And he's like, "These are a little dry," and I was like, they're not going to be good when someone's bringing you cigars that are from like an old box that hasn't been stored properly. So you're like, oh, if this is how serious you take your brand, we know it's not going to be that good.
Absolutely.
People that really take their brands seriously and make good cigars are really proud of them. Like my father, they do trips down to their factory and stuff. Have you gone on any of these where you go down and like see the actual factory and make a whole weekend out of it?
We're actually, being a brick and mortar, or, you got to be, most of the time a brick and mortar can go, and certain customers can go, but you got to be like whatever the company classifies. But most of the time it's brick and mortar. So we're actually going to Perdomo's factory, 2022. If you're not a member right here at Dapper D's, get on the wait list. We're cutting it off at 20. I think we're at 17 or 18 right now. But anyway, we're going on to Perdomo's factory in Nicaragua in 2022 on a weekend trip, and then we're going to interview Nick live from Nicaragua. It's going to be freaking phenomenal. I can't wait for that one. But those tours really teach you a lot just about the industry and the amount of work and effort that goes into those. So Ron spoke about something that I would love to know. Like, what was it that made you say, I'm dropping everything, I'm leaving behind my great life that I had, and I'm going full-fledged comedy? Like, what's the backstory to that one?
I remember I was like living at my parents' house when I was still, I think I was a personal trainer, and I was going to open a personal training gym, and I had this opportunity at like a really upscale place, and I was like, okay, I could make a few $1 million doing this. And I drove to that location at night, and I looked at it, and I was like, this could be my future, or I could do what's in my heart, what I really want to do. And at that point, I was like, I'm going to do what's in my heart. And it was a rough road. Like, I lived in an attic in a really bad area of town. I was trying to become an actor. I was a drunk for so many years. And then there was just this thing, like, once I did comedy, I was like, okay, this is all there is to do for me. Like, this is why I'm here. So you have that. And I remember writing all these motivational things on my wall, and I think there was like a Busta Rhymes quote, which is so weird. Why would anybody quote Busta? But it was like, there is no other option. This has to work.
Yeah.
So that, and filling yourself with motivation. And I was also a bodybuilder for years, so I knew that there's no quitting. There's nothing you can't work through.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. And and then you see like other positive people, like, we don't embrace excuses, we embrace solutions.
Yeah.
So you just got to find a way.
And I think that's like that that paragraph that you just stated is really intricate when it comes into business itself. So many people go into business with a plan A, B, and C, and it's like, if you got a plan A, B, and C, then that means A wasn't never going to work out anyway.
That's right.
And then on top of that, when you're doing stuff that you're not passionate about, it's like really hard for you to go ahead and expect the success to come from it. I think passion really is a motivation itself for you to succeed in whatever it is that you're doing. Nobody looks at comedy, nobody looks at cigars and say, I'm going to become rich off of selling cigars or being a comedian. That's not something that you go by. You go by the fact, and the fact of the matter is, like, you're making people laugh and you're educating people on cigars and getting them to know, different cigars and different things of that nature. And I think, when you have that type of passion behind whatever it is that you're doing, you're ultimately set up for success anyway.
Yeah. I think, you share positivity. It comes back to you.
Yeah. And so, Aaron, I know you have a busy schedule, and we are approaching our hour. So I do want to respect your time very, very, very much. And more than anything, we appreciate you coming on to the show, man. Most of the time I say is, give us one gem that anybody can use in their business or whatever, in life, whatever the case may be. But I don't feel like that is fitting for here. I want you to crack a joke.
Oh,
I want you to tell a good joke, make everybody laugh, because at the end of the day, I think sometimes it gets too serious to the point where we just forget to do the most simplest thing, is laugh, have a good time, and relax. So I do ask you to be kind of mindful, nothing controversial.
See, that's I gotta rack my brain here for a minute.
nothing that's gonna say what it is, but just be mindful of everything.
Oh boy. All right, I'm gonna tell this old street joke as clean as I can.
Okay.
All right, there's these two comedians. They're both little people. You know what I'm saying? Little people.
Okay, little people. Okay.
They're little people, and they go on the road together. These two comedians, and they pick up these two girls after the show. They go back to their hotel rooms. They both got rooms right next to each other. So the one little person is having problems getting it to work, if you know what I'm saying. It's not getting up. And then next door, he just hears the other little guy going, 1, 2, 3, huh? 1, 2, 3, huh? 1, 2, 3, huh? And now the other little guy's like, oh my God, I can't get hard with my buddy next door just pounding away like this. 1, 2, 3, huh? 1, 2, 3, huh? All night. Can't get hard. Finally, this girl just leaves, gets all upset, starts yelling at him. The next morning, they wake up to go get coffee. And one guy goes, how was your night? He goes, awful. I couldn't get it up. I'm listening to you pounding away all night. He goes, pounding away? I was trying to get on the bed.
That was actually funny. Because, I mean, so the 1, 2, 3 was him trying to jump on the bed.
You get
it. That's a knee slapper. Yeah. Hey man, Aaron, we definitely appreciate you tonight, and coming in and just being yourself, man. At the end of the day, I think people need to focus on the arts and craft that comes into comedy, and really embrace the diverse nature that we live in. And certain things we just got to laugh about, and certain things we just got to take heed to and learn from them. But at the end of the day, let's not take away from the things that we love to do more than anything. Is just laugh. Sometimes people always want to just talk serious business. Sometimes I don't want to talk serious business. Sometimes I just want to laugh. And I think having people like you in a world that has dedicated your life to making people laugh, man, that is great. Even in the most hardest times. So we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
So at the end of the day, Aaron, we wish you the much success and everything that you're doing, and continue on. Do you have any last minute words for the audience and anybody that's going to watch this segment later?
Get out, see some live comedy. Come see me when I come to your town. Check out In Hot Water, or check me out on @Berg Comedy on Twitter. You'll see all the trouble I'm getting into on there.
So what's the next show that you're doing? So if people in the area, they can go ahead and book that.
Where will it be? I'll be in Austin, Texas, May 14 and 15 at the Vulcan Gas Company. That's going to be a fire weekend. If you're in New York, New Jersey area, I'm doing Blue Claw Stadium in October, doing East Brunswick Parking. There's like a shopping mall we're doing outdoors there. They're still doing outdoor shows. I'll be in Cleveland August 19th to 21st at the Funny Stop. So a lot of dates coming up. I'm hitting the road once or twice a month, and I'll always be in New York City at the Stand or Gotham Comedy Club.
Man, make sure y'all go see Aaron, man. Get a good laugh in, and just remember not to take life too serious.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
No problem, Aaron. Thank you so much, man. Stay smoking. You have a great day, brother.
Peace.
the biggest thing I think that we can do in life is just simply take a step back and laugh at the things that we don't necessarily that we necessarily take too serious. Sometimes, taking things too serious in life can really cause some anxiety, cause stress, and different things of that nature. It's best to just sit back, laugh, and have a cigar, and enjoy life, man. Y'all already know I'm Jack the Cigar Enthusiast, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in with us every week, and just the outright support that you guys give me, from visiting the lounge, from visiting the website, to following us on social media and all that, man. We appreciate you guys. We cannot do it without you. If you're new to the virtual smoke deck, man, go ahead and hit that like and that follow button on the virtual smoke deck live on Facebook, and go follow us at on Facebook and Instagram at Dapper D Cigars. Dapper D Cigar is my brand. That is my cigar lounge located here in Jacksonville, Florida, 725 Scar Marsh Drive, Suite 3, Jacksonville, Florida, 32218, 4 minutes from the Jacksonville International Airport. With that being said, man, next week we got another action-packed show with you guys for you guys. We're supposed to have Karen Berger from Karen Berger Cigars on the tap in. It's going to be a great segment. Karen has some great cigars. You can also find Karen Cigars here at Dapper D's Cigars, as well as on dapperdcigars.com. We appreciate you guys as always, man. Couple things coming up. I do want to highlight as our grand opening. Our grand opening is happening. You need to make sure you're in the building, man. This is something that you don't want to miss. May 8th here at Dapper D's, man. May 8th is going to be ridiculous. We got live music. We got DJ, we got giveaways, we got box sales off of cigars, man. We got raffles that we're doing, man. It's just going to be a great time. And then May 7th, for all my members here at Dapper D's, as well as our family that is coming into town, we're shutting down the lounge at 8 o'clock, at 7 o'clock for our members event that starts at 8. We will have live music for our members only. I do ask that, if you're in the area, that's the day that you want to come check out Dapper D's, come back on the 8th, because you're not going to be able to get in unless you're a member, man. With that being said, man, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope everybody is smoking some great damn cigars. And if you're not, go visit us at Dapper D's Cigars today to go ahead and place your order and get some great cigars put in your humidor. With that being said, I'm Jack the Cigar Enthusiast. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, but I'm gone. Hold on, I gotta post this real quick. Hey, what now? Appreciate you, Ryan, man. You're the GOAT, man. I appreciate you so much, brother. I'm gone.